Right now, China's detained over 1 million Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims into concentration camps. They are forced to denounce Islam, adopt atheism, and pledge allegiance to the Chinese state. They would spend hours on end chanting in their crowded cells, "There is no such thing as religion," or "All hail the Chinese state," or "All hail Chinese President Xi Jinping." And if the detainees disobey, or if there's any type of resistance, there is torture being used. Nails are being pulled out, teeth are being pulled out. They're using snakes to interrogate. People are being beaten until they're dead. They're being sterilized, a method used in genocide. They're forced to sit on what's called a tiger chair, where they're clamped down on this chair for hours on end, oftentimes in solitary confinement. People are being sent to these camps for random reasons. One of them could easily be you are in contact with someone abroad. You have a family member abroad. You engage in religion. So if you pray, if you mention the word God in your speech, if you fast, any type of indication that you are practicing religion, that is enough for you to be sent to the camps. And thousands of people have actually been transferred from these camps to prisons. One of my relatives in early 2017 got put inside one of these camps. Last November, he came out dead. One of my relatives got sent to a camp because he went to the United States to attend my cousin's wedding in 2014. Last August, he got sentenced to 15 years of prison. Many of my relatives, we don't know if they're alive or dead. And there's not a single Uyghur who doesn't have at least one family member in these camps or some form of detention or prison. The worst part is when someone dies, their bodies are not taken to their families, but rather the bodies are cremated. And that's another way for China to hide the evidence of bodies coming out of these camps. And it doesn't give us a clear idea of how many people are dying. All of this stuff is happening in secret. The children of these detainees have been sent to state-run orphanages and boarding schools where they are taught to hate their own religion, identity, and are forced to speak Chinese, are subject to abuse and torture. The parents don't know where their kids are. Most towns and villages in East Turkestan are almost empty. Around 70 to 80% of the civilians are all gone. You walk through the street and it's eerily silent because most people are in some form of detention or prison. Schools and factories are now being transformed into these concentration camps. The entire nation of East Turkestan has essentially become a dungeon for its people because China monitors their every action, even in the homes. So there are millions of hand government cadres who are living in Uyghur homes to make sure they're not engaging in religion and to assess their political views. Practicing Islam is completely banned. So for me to even say something like, "Oh, I'll see you tomorrow, God willing," is prohibited because you said the word God. Even having an Islamic name is a crime. So you have to change your name from a name like Muhammad or Fatima to an ethnic Han name. Thousands of Uyghur women are also forced to marry ethnic Han Chinese men. And this is another way to get rid of the next generation of Uyghurs. So why is China cracking down on Uyghurs and Turkic Muslims specifically? East Turkestan is really rich in minerals and resources, so by putting people into camps and basically carrying out an ethnic cleansing, China is attempting to maintain tight control over the mineral-rich land. You might wonder why the world has been really silent about this whole issue, and it's because of a few reasons. Number one, China has tightly controlled its media, so a lot of what's happening can't really be revealed outside to the rest of the world. Number two, even when people know about it, or even when governments know about it, they are forced to remain silent due to Chinese pressure and their economic and strategic ties to the country. So the question is, what can you do? What we need you to do is raise awareness, because right now, most of the world has no idea that this is happening. Pressure your government leaders to acknowledge China's occupation of East Turkestan and its systematic campaign to wipe out the Uyghurs and other people of East Turkestan. Support your local Uyghur communities. They're in dire need of international support. Come out to their protests. Organize protests in front of Chinese embassies and bodies that can actually take action to challenge China's ethnic cleansing of the Uyghurs.
My name is Anastasia Lin. I am a Canadian actress. I've taken on roles in film and television shows that depict human rights abuses in China. And to prepare, I speak with those who have suffered, including Falun Gong practitioners. These are not criminals. These are people who believe in truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. I wanted to speak for those in China who are beaten, burned, electrocuted for holding their beliefs. People in prison who eat rotten food with blistered fingers because they dare have conviction. I campaigned for the title Miss World Canada on the Human Rights platform. Recent events leave me worried for my family who are still in China. I had to choose between silence and my hope for a better China. And then I remembered, silence helps no one. Silence feeds terror. I think if every Chinese can speak up and let the Chinese government know that when they do such things, they will have a cost. So yes, I am a beauty queen, and probably the only beauty queen in history that has ever been declared persona non grata by any country. I was born in China. When I was there, I believed everything I was taught. And then I moved to Canada, and I was given the rarest gift, a chance to reconstruct my outlook on the world. I wanted to find out what had been hidden from me, so I searched for all the terms that was deemed sensitive terms by our school teachers in China. I watched videos of the brutal persecution of Tiananmen massacre in 1989. This is an event that has been almost erased from the memories of Chinese citizens' mind. I also learned about the persecution of Falun Gong. In the late 1990s, 70 to 100 million Chinese people were practicing this peaceful meditation practice of the Buddha school. Rooted in the principle of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, it offered an alternative to communist atheist dogma and money worship. And initially, it was supported by the government as a way to improve health. Unfortunately, Falun Gong's popularity and independence from state control came to be viewed as a threat by the ruling party, challenging its absolute control over the hearts and minds of Chinese citizens. As anyone who is familiar with modern Chinese history would know, that the party tolerates no ideological competition, however benign. So in 1999, the Communist Party launched a systematic and sustained persecution that permeates every level of society that is aimed to eradicate this group. In a recent report, Freedom House wrote that hundreds of thousands of Falun Gong practitioners have been detained without trial, making them the largest group of prisoners of conscience in China, if not the world. The party has officially sanctioned the use of torture to force these people to renounce their beliefs, resulting in a huge number being killed in custody. A far-reaching campaign of hatred propaganda and misinformation was used to vilify and dehumanize Falun Gong practitioners. After learning all this, I realized that I've been lied to all my life. Under the influence of China's state-run media and education system, I was made to feel hate and contempt toward my country's true heroes, these people who are willing to risk their lives for higher principles. Worse still, I was made to participate in the indoctrination of others. As a student leader in China, my role was to organize my classmates to watch hatred propaganda videos. The Chinese Communist Party tries to make all Chinese complicit of its crimes. Learning that you have been deceived for so long is such a profound indignity. Perhaps that is why so many Chinese people continue to struggle to accept the truth even after they leave China. It is a profound embarrassment to learn that your whole belief system was based on lies. And once I came to understand this, I wanted to find a way to contradict it, a way to not only defy it, but to also speak up for the Chinese, brave Chinese citizens who have been vilified for their heroism. And eventually, I chose acting as the medium for this effort. I looked for roles that moved me, that shed light on what is happening in China today, from official censorship to corruption that led to shoddy school buildings that crushed thousands of children during the Sichuan earthquake. Some people believe that I have damaged my career by taking these roles. Many Chinese actors who were offered parts in these productions backed out over fears of reprisal from the Chinese Communist Party. My most recent film, The Bleeding Edge, I depicted a woman who refused to renounce her belief, and as a result, she was killed in custody and her organs sold for profit. As harrowing as it sounds, this is what happened to thousands of Chinese prisoners of conscience. Consider this. China performs far in excess of 10,000 organ transplants per year. Yet there's virtually no voluntary organ donation. Hospitals promise that they can obtain a kidney, a liver, a heart within a matter of weeks. Authorities claim that these organs come from death row inmates, people who are convicted of capital crimes. But there aren't nearly enough capital death row inmates to supply such a large number of organ transplants. Noting this disparity, researchers try to find the true source of the organ, and they have concluded that tens of thousands of innocent Falun Gong practitioners, as well as a number of Uyghurs, Tibetans, and house Christians have been killed so their organs can be sold to the lucrative transplant industry in China. Learning this was a humbling experience. I came to feel that my role is to be these victims' voice, the people who have been disenfranchised, suffocated by state power. So I decided to run for a Miss World competition, whose motto is beauty with purpose. And to my greatest surprise, I was crowned Miss World Canada last May. My determination and resolve was immediately tested. My father, who still lives in China, was threatened by the state security agents. They tried to use him to pressure me to abandon my human rights concern. It nearly worked. I almost gave up. But then I remembered this. If I give in to fear, there's no way I will ever find out what could have happened if I have done the right thing. So I continued speaking out, and as a result, I was honorably declared persona non grata by Chinese government and barred from entering Miss World final contest in China last December. My experience is not a unique experience. Chinese people all around the world continue to feel the long, cold, iron arms of the Communist Party. The party has specialized agencies working to ensure that Chinese people living abroad continue to adhere to the correct political view. If people step out of line, we risk endangering our families back home. And not just Chinese people who face this pressure. Western journalists, academics, who bravely dares to report about Chinese issue critically and honestly, they will be denied a visa to enter China. And as anyone who's familiar with the movie business these days, some Hollywood studios are kowtowing to China, trading artistic integrity for market access. We in the West have failed to impose real cost on human rights abuses by the Chinese Communist Party. China's rulers have learned that no matter how extreme its human rights abuses, they will face no cost, political or economic. We have taught the Chinese Communist regime that they can abuse, imprison, and kill their own citizens with impunity. I want to end by showing you one of the hardest scenes for me to film in the movie The Bleeding Edge. Let's take a look.
停，他不行了。你还绝不绝食？
你有没有妻子儿女？他们如果遭受这样的经历，你是什么感受？你为什么要当医生？是为了迫害好人吗？
何苦受这个罪呢？
我们这样子对你，你恨不恨我们？
不恨。
才是这场迫害真正的受害者。为了一份工作，做这种丧尽天良的事情，将来这场迫害的真相大白于天下的时候，你的孩子问你，迫害法轮功的时候你在做什么？你们怎么回答？
This was very hard for me to deliver. After all my character had been through, myself, my real self, loathed these men who tortured me. But the story was written based on true victims' testimony. Many of them forgave their torture. This spirit of compassion is what the dictators are really afraid of. These victims are peaceful. They're not moved by hatred, no matter how much violence is inflicted on them. They do not let themselves be corrupted. And this is my hope for the future of China. There are still so many people there who dare to risk their lives to speak up for their fellow countrymen suffering. Let us do our part to be worthy of their sacrifice and their courage. You don't need to be an actor to put yourself in these people's shoes. You don't need to be an actor to share their stories. But if you can take action, we'll be so very grateful. Thank you very much.